I was recently asked, Tony, what is God doing in America? What is going on in this world? And I sought the Lord, and I feel like I have some things I'd like to share with you. The last 3 years, we've been through a pandemic. We watched our economy slide, national debt into the trillions and trillions again. And then recently, like the train derailment in East Palestine. And then recently again, a good thing, the Asbury revival, which is now spreading. I'm going to give you my opinion on those two items at the last of this piece. But let's begin with what God deals with first, his church. Jesus told us in John 15 that his Father is a gardener, and he does his work by pruning. And some branches in the church need to be completely cut off and thrown into the fire, and that's what he's been doing. He has also been pruning parts where they need to grow back and become more fruitful. And many people are discouraged by this process. They're not used to that confrontation. And the Lord showed me 3 strongholds, 3 ruling principalities that are definitely working against the church and the American people. I'm going to share those with you. The first one is ungratefulness. The ingratitude that I see in America for what we have been given and live in, it's ridiculous. Even in the church, the ungratefulness for your salvation, for the presence of God, for the ability to have your life changed by his power. The next 2 kind of go hand in hand, comfort and convenience. When God prunes and puts us through the test, through the fire, through the waters, it's extremely uncomfortable, and many people want to run away from him instead of letting him do that deep work. Convenience. Hey, being in a wilderness experience is not convenient. Things aren't ever ready when you come to him. It's on his time, not yours. The hand of God is moving, and I'm doing my best where I am at to let him do what he needs to do. Some relationships he's cutting off, never to return. Some relationships he's completely reorganizing, restructuring. And he's removing destructive relational habits in the church, in families, in relationships. So let's see what we can do about this. Do you want that pruning to stop? I'm going to let you know it will never stop. Welcome to the real life of the kingdom. God is far more concerned about who we become to him than what we will ever do for him or receive from his hands. My hope is that we learn to live in this world where he is our joy, because joy itself is uncircumstantial. It was a joy before him, is why he was able to endure the cross. Let's talk about Asbury Revival and East Palestine, because there are some things there that I saw, and I believe God's justice is just now beginning to be seen. On February 8th, about 8:55 p.m., a train derailment of about 50 cars happened in East Palestine, carrying toxic chemicals, which we know now are leaked into the river basin, going to affect hundreds of millions of people, plus life of animals and insects and ecosystem, etc. That was February 8th. 5 days earlier, the Asbury Revival began. Now I want you to understand the mystery of God's justice. 5, it's the number of God's grace. Him doing for us what we couldn't do for ourselves. His mercy acting on behalf of us. Psalm 97:2 tells us that God's throne is founded upon 2 things, righteousness and his justice. You must understand God will always seek to balance the scales in his kingdom. And what we looked at here in East Palestine, there was an injustice done. For me, I don't think it was an accident. Just as much as the Asbury Revival is no accident. You must understand the hand of God when he deals with justice. If you look at the story of Job, the injustice done to him by the enemy ended up with double for his trouble. He was fully restored and then some. On the other hand, we look at Paul's life in 2 Corinthians. Because of the abundance of his revelations, there was a messenger sent from Satan to buffet him in his flesh, a thorn in the flesh. These scales of balance always must be balanced out on the scales of justice. So if the enemy hits hard, God in his justice will reward us accordingly. The unjust judge, the parable Jesus taught about the widow who continually pestered him. You see, that's a parable and paradox. God is not unjust. But Jesus made a comment. He will reward his people quickly. But there's one thing that we need to do. And Paul revealed that in 2 Corinthians 10, verse 6. He says, when our obedience is fulfilled, God will provide vengeance upon our enemies. It's up to us. We need to obey. We need to surrender. And when we do our part, God can act on our behalf in justice. Otherwise, he'd have to judge us too in our disobedience. For me, one of the things that stood out in this car derailment, there's 50 cars. The number 50 in the Bible is the year of Jubilee, the year of release from captivity. And I truly see God's hand at work here, that he is releasing his blessing. As Acts 3 talks about, times of refreshing will come from the presence of the Lord. We are there. He's going to restore his church. He's going to put the saltiness back in it. He's going to revive the light that needs to glow again in the American people. I'm waiting for it. Now I'm going to share a couple things. Very important. First thing I did is I looked up where East Palestine was on my iPhone from the seminary. Look at this. 3 destinations. 666. The hand of the enemy was there, in my opinion. And God in his justice, 5 days later, answered. East Palestine is northeast of the seminary. Now, there's an interesting thing to the name Asbury. It is of English descent from the 7th century. And I love it because its first Old English word, the preface to it, means east. Ast means east. And then Bur means a fortified city or town. East Palestine, injustice. Asbury, East fortified city, God's justice. We need to get ready because refreshing is coming. And a word for you church leaders, pastors. God has put you in his body right where you need to be. We will not be involved in the political party of prestige, power, fame. We're in his body where he placed us. And he has one requirement of his servants. Be faithful. Be faithful in the little. We each have a place in this body. We do not need to make comments about everyone else doing something right or wrong. You intercede, I intercede. God will see fit where and when he wants to release his blessings. For now, seek the face of God. He is looking to hand out his mercy to the church in America once again. God bless you guys.